Hey there, it's Laura. So I want to talk to you about something that a lot of people avoid talking about. In fact, a lot of people avoid thinking about it, and that is discouragement. Okay, so we, especially as Cincy girls and Cincy guys, we are really good at being positive. We're positive for our customers, we're positive for our teams. We are just wearing the smile. Everything is great, even when it's not. And we just get in that mode of not being able to maybe even verbalize the disappointments and the discouragements that come our way. And I want to tell you that if you've met somebody in their Cincy journey that's been in for, let's just say, more than like 6 weeks, and they pretend like that they've not had any discouragement or disappointments, I would just have to check their pulse. I'm not sure that they're human. And likewise, if you've met someone that's been a mama for more than 6 weeks and they've never ever had a down day, I would question if they were human too. Same thing with our marriages, same thing whenever you go to start working out. If you work out for 6 weeks straight, you cannot tell me that every single one of those days felt like a dream. That every single one of those days you felt like you were on top of the world, you were killing it and hitting all the milestones that you mentally set up for yourself. Okay, so what I want you to know is discouragement and disappointment is real. You are not a weird person. You are not a negative Nelly. You are not crazy if you've experienced disappointment. You're not a crazy bad person if you've experienced disappointment and discouragement in your Cincy business, in your leadership, in your sales, in your promotions, in whatever you're aiming for. A lot of times I'll talk to someone and I'll hear a little seed of disappointment in them. They'll say something, maybe, their team hasn't been responding to their post, or maybe they thought for sure that they would have had this many points towards an incentive trip and they were falling short, or they mailed out 200 postcards and they've really only gotten 3 or 4 orders from it. Honestly, I feel a little bit happy inside whenever I know that they are comfortable with me talking about their disappointments when it's at a little stage, because I know, and I've been in this thing long enough, that I know what comes next. Disappointments come first, and then comes some bad discouragement, okay? Discouragement is the emotion that I feel like we've all experienced no matter what we've set out to do. And a lot of us haven't stuck with a lot of things long enough, I know I haven't, stuck with anything long enough to even know what that discouragement is going to do and how it's going to feel. And we don't have experience with like rising up from it because we've not really done a lot of things long enough to know how to make it through that season. And so I just want to chat with you for just a second about, number one, I want you to know that you are normal. And I don't care what people post on Facebook, and I don't care what people say at their, in their training or whatever. I don't know. I just need you to know that it's a normal human emotion to feel down about every area of your life if you do it for long enough. The difference is that, just like with a marriage, you might be disappointed in your spouse one day, and then if you don't get that fixed and deal with it and somehow work beyond that disappointment turns into some major discouragement, maybe even depression. And then all over we see that if that's not fixed and dealt with and both sides aren't really working together in it, then it can end up in divorce. That's a lot of D words. Anyway, so in your Cincy business, what does that look like? I can't jump inside your brain and your heart and your soul and say to you were meant to do Cincy. So I want to say right off the bat, take a little commercial break here and say that I'm not sitting here saying that every single person in the world is called to do Cincy. I can't say that. That would be crazy. Like, I have no way of knowing that. Okay. But I am going to take a little commercial break and tell you that I have seen so many people work through so many hurdles that it's hard for me to really honestly look at you and say that there's somebody out there that can't do Cincy. I know people that have the craziest, real life situations and they kill their Cincy business like a boss. I know amazing stories. And I'm thankful that I've been in situations where I've gotten to see these people in action. I've gotten to watch them overcome major obstacles, because then it lets me know, hey, I can work this business through any situation that life throws at me. But if I'm discouraged, then those hurdles seem way bigger and way like I can't even overcome them, okay? And that's just life. We know that already. I will tell you that I believe it really helps listening to other people's stories, because it makes you put a lot of things into perspective. My team won't, respond to my text. My team won't get on my training calls. None of my team's going to world tour. Like, these are things that you might be saying to yourself. These are things that you may hear from someone else. Well, those are really valid points. And day after day, that kind of junk wears at you, and it can make you absolutely crazy inside. And it can make you, and I've been there, even within the last 30 days, I've had those thoughts come into my heart like, am I really the best one for this? Like, what am I missing? Why aren't they responding like I feel like they should? Or sometimes I think to myself, am I really making a difference? Like, would they even notice if I didn't go live today? Would they even notice if we didn't do a team incentive today? Like, like you have those thoughts, right? Or worse, the comparison bug bites you and you think, oh, well, if they were under her, she'd be able to resurrect the dead. Or if I had her creativity, then everybody would want to watch me or, buy from me or whatever. I don't know what discouragement looks like in your everyday life, but I'm telling you, it's probably there or it's coming. And you got to know what to do to deal with it. You have to think that, hey, it's coming and I'm ready for it. Someone recently kind of like equated this to there not being any toilet paper in the bathroom. Like, to put your head in the sand and think that your bathroom didn't need toilet paper would be like saying you weren't human. Like, that's just weird. Okay? So guys, discouragement is coming. Be prepared for it. Have toilet paper in the bathroom, because the crap is going to hit the fan. You are not going to know what to do. You are going to cry. You are going to get so mad at yourself. You're going to question everything. And then let's add on the fact that we're dealing with life. And some of you guys haven't made it in your Scentsy business where you've been able to really supplement your income to where you're still working a lot in your real job, or you're still relying on your husband to pay all of the bills pretty much. And Scentsy's just not there yet. Your Scentsy income hasn't been built to where you can kind of relax a little bit. And so add on the fact that you're dealing with life stress too. And I'm telling you, it can get really messy. And it has for me. And I think it's absolutely unfair for us to think that discouragement isn't going to knock on our door and the people that we love's door. Now, how do you deal with it? Because it's coming. Where do you get the toilet paper? You've got to make sure that you're ready for this to come. I think the biggest thing that I really want you to take away is knowing that you're not weird. And just because you get discouraged and just because you haven't promoted in a year, just because you haven't gotten a lot of engagement from your team on social media, just because you're not really seeing a big boost in your customer base, doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means that you may need to get some outside help. There are times in our marriage, I've been married for 15 years, and even though I feel like for sure he's the man I was supposed to be with, there have been times in our marriage where I didn't like him. And I was disappointed in him. And that disappointment day in and day out, unchecked, became discouragement, big time discouragement, and a little bitterness probably. And then that turned into day after day, unchecked, undealt with, unfixed. It turned into me just not even, like whatever. I'm not even really sure if we're going to be together type thoughts. Okay. And I think that that's where some people are in their Scentsy business. I don't even know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then here's the clincher. When you're down like that, there may be another area of your life that's up. Okay, so let's just pretend this has never happened, but let's just pretend Marcus is treating me. We're not doing super great. We're in a weird place, rocky place in our marriage. We're down. But then, the guy at Jason's Deli is nice to Laura. There isn't a guy at Jason's Deli. I'm just making something up because we ate there. We eat there a lot. Okay, yeah, so, but not because there's a guy. Okay, this is crazy. But let's just pretend like that guy was being super nice. So I'm feeling really low and down over here, but then the promise of something shiny, and I'm feeling good. Like, I feel like he thinks I'm fine. Or I'm feeling like, oh, he values me. Or he would take good care of me. Or he wouldn't disappoint me. Okay, so the problem is when that happens, when my mind starts finding a replacement, it makes this yucky stuff over here seem so much worse than what it is. So much worse. As survival, our brain starts to attach itself and the attention that we give it to the thing that we feel like is going to be the best to survive. And when we're already in a discouraged and disappointed place in our Scentsy business, and then we start thinking, oh, wow, this girl, she really is killing it in this other business, and I've always liked that stuff, and you know, she just really seems to do well with it, you know? Then we start thinking, oh, well, we're already discouraged in Scentsy, and so our brain starts attaching our attention to something that we feel like would thrive. It happens all the time in relationships. It happens all the time in a lot of different areas, okay? So what do? Does it mean that the first time you get discouraged, or the first, you know, like 3-month period that you go without a new recruit, does that mean that you're not supposed to be doing this? No, it just means that you may need to get some help. There may be some times where relationships get so low that one or both of them need to go to a counselor, okay? There may be some times let's just say with your health, there may be some times where you need to get accountability partner. You need a personal trainer because yourself going to the gym isn't cutting it, okay? When do you know that that's going to happen? Well, usually it's because you're not seeing results that you want. You're seeing a little bit of discouragement, but it's very important to you, so important that you're willing to do hard things. And I hope that in your Scentsy business, you identify this discouragement, well, first the disappointments. You put them in the right place because, guys, we're going to be discouraged. It's just life. And then you don't let it ever get to the discouragement stage, and you don't ever let it get to the place where it rocks the foundation of your Scentsy business to the point where you're not even sure if you're supposed to be doing it. The discouragement can get real for me. I'm telling you, you see people on social media, and you've probably maybe even watched some of my stuff, and you just think, oh, she never has a down day. I do have down days. We don't put them on social media. We don't, cause people to think negatively. But guys, it happens. And I'll be honest with you, it's how I deal with it that determines the outcome. So that being said, when I'm 104 years old, and I'm still doing Scentsy, I'm pretty sure that there are going to be some obstacles. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some discouragements. But I hope that what I do is I surround myself with people that are fighting battles bigger than mine. I love reading stories of overcomers. And you don't have to look very far in Scentsy to see people that are overcoming obstacles that will make you cry in a heartbeat. And it makes my bad days feel like nothing. And not saying that they aren't anything, because it's discouraging when your team doesn't respond to you. It's discouraging when you send out 10 texts and nobody responds. None of your customers need Scentsy, right? Like, really? It is discouraging. But then if I really purposely try to find a way to work beyond that, align myself with people that are hustlers, make sure that the people that I'm talking to and reading after and following on social media and YouTube, make sure that they are people of quality and that they are inspirational, that they make you want to take your journey a step higher, that they keep you happy. I recently was able to read after someone that used her Scentsy business as a way to bless others in an area that she was actually thinking that was going to be her out. Like, she was like, man, Scentsy's not doing so well. And this other venture of hers was doing great. And so she was like, maybe this is my sign that I'm supposed to get out of Scentsy. Anyway, to make a long story short, she didn't, thank the Lord. She didn't. And she stayed with her Scentsy business, and she decided that she was going to try to find why God put both of those into her life. Why did God put Scentsy into her life as an opportunity. Why did God give her the other opportunity that was thriving as well? It wasn't another business. It was actually volunteering and doing a lot of mission type work. Okay. So when the opportunity came, instead of dropping Scentsy like it was hot because it was down and she was discouraged with it and she wasn't seeing results, instead, she was like, man, how can I find a way to make these two things merge and help be better together? Because they were both given to her at the same time and she felt like they were both in her life for a reason. So she started reaching out to her customers and letting them know that her Scentsy journey was she was going to do a big outreach to help the other venture that she was on with helping missionaries and really giving back and a lot of like volunteer work. Okay. And all of a sudden her PRV started doubling. Like every month, instead of barely getting to her $500, $750 one month, over $1,000 another month. And she was enjoying Scentsy more because it made sense. It wasn't that she could only love one. It was that she needed to get creative and talk to some mentors to help her find the road to merge them both so that she didn't have to give up either of them, but that actually by using them together, she could do much bigger things in both areas. I don't know if you're about to get out of Scentsy. I'm not sure how long you've been discouraged. I have absolutely no clue where you are in your discouragement or why you are. But I am telling you that instead of jumping ship and finding whatever is shiny that you're thinking could be what your calling is now, instead of throwing away what you've worked for, because I'm sure if you're watching this, you've worked to achieve a pot of customers or a pot of people in your team, or maybe a large following. I'm not sure where you are, but I'm telling you, think really hard at where your first disappointment was that got you into the discouragement that you're in. And I bet you can trace it back to, sometimes it's a elevated expectation. So sometimes I say, oh, I am going to sell 2,000 PRV this month before the 15th, and I'm going to send out 20 texts. 20 texts does not equal 2,000 PRV. Sorry. And if I get discouraged because I set the bar too high and I set the timeline too high, then that can be fixed. That's an easy fix. Don't let months of discouragement start out with a tiny disappointment. And a lot of times that's exactly, we see it in marriages all the time. It's like if you could trace back the timeline, the disappointment was actually he didn't buy you roses on your birthday, or he didn't come home from work early on Christmas Eve. I mean, you can trace it back in the very first seed with something kind of small. Not saying that's not valid. It can be very valid, but it was small. And then if it's unchecked and undealt with and not fixed, it can be build upon it, and it can be huge. Go back in your Scentsy business. Where do you think it was that you first got discouraged? Where was that first little disappointment? It might have been in an upline director that didn't do something you thought they should. Or maybe there was a text or a Facebook message that kind of just like hurt your heart. Maybe your team just has stopped looking at you, engaging with you, responding to you. I mean, these are things that happen to us all, so it'd be crazy not to use them. I could go on and on. I could take the next 4 minutes and tell you, just list of things that can happen that can sow that little seed of disappointment. But what are we going to do with it? There's a much bigger picture. I want you to work on that discouragement. I want you to find someone that you look up to in your Scentsy business, or that you think would listen to you and could maybe offer some, at least I've been there. Like sometimes that's the best advice ever. If I'm talking to someone about a marriage issue that I'm having, or a parenting issue, sometimes I don't need a fix. I just need somebody to act like I'm just human, please. And when they say, oh my gosh, girl, this reminds me of something I went through. I've been where you are. Whew, that's all I needed to hear. If I know that she's where she is and she overcame whatever it was, then I too, there's hope for me. And sometimes you just need to talk it out with someone that can look at you in the eye and say, you can do this. I've been where you are. Find that person, find that thing, find that book, find that YouTube video. Don't let yourself get into a seed of Don't let a seed of discouragement turn into, or disappointment turn into huge depression over your Scentsy business, because that's what's going to happen. Okay, the last thing I have to tell you, and this is super important, is check your vitamin levels. Oh my gosh, I'm so going here with you right now because I've recently been getting B12, or actually the B complex shot in my honey butt. And I really feel like that, like it's helping my, like I wake up in the morning and I'm not so grouchy. And I just feel like I have more energy. I don't even know that I was a down person before. I don't feel like I was a down person, but now it's like my outlook is a little bit different. Like I don't like fall apart whenever I see that Luke's forgotten to do something, or I don't know, I'm not a perfect person. Like the B12 didn't make me into some kind of like crazy angel. I still like get tore up about stuff, but I'm telling you that if a simple B12 shot could help improve your outlook on life, then it may just help improve your outlook on Scentsy. And it may be that your vitamin levels aren't quite where they need to be. And I'm telling you, if I went to a doctor and questioned this, he would put me on some kind of antidepressant. You might not need antidepressants. I'm not a doctor, but check your vitamin levels. Pretty much everybody can benefit from a B12 shot or the B complexes. So I really want you to think about when the last time you've had like a panel of blood work drawn. I want you to think about the fact that what if your outlook was sour on not just Scentsy, and maybe your outlook was sour on some other areas of your life. And I want you to think about what if you woke up in a different perspective just because the levels and your vitamin levels weren't quite where they need to be, or maybe you're not eating super healthy and that's kind of playing a part. You got to take care of yourself to have the right mental outlook and mental attitude towards hurdles when they come. I know whenever I'm in a super grouchy mood, it's the little things that make me absolutely fall apart, but when I'm in a good mood, those little things I would laugh about. Think about that as it applies to your Scentsy business, taking care of you. B12, I want you to think about it. I'm not saying that you're going to have a B12 shot and just fall back in love with not getting responses from your team, or fall back in love with not earning the incentive trips, or whatever has got you discouraged. I'm not saying that a simple shot is going to fix that. I'm just saying, why not think about taking care of yourself from that perspective as well? I think we sometimes forget that there are legitimate health concerns that sometimes can make us feel discouraged and kind of down in the dumps. Anyway, has this helped? Has this maybe given you a new perspective of why you feel down and now you don't feel so guilty about feeling down? If I accomplished my goal. I love you guys. Hang in there, okay?